At the end of Book 9, Odysseus and his remaining crew leave the island of the Cyclops with one piece of good fortune. They still have 6 ships and crews to fill them, though they won't have this for long. In Book 10 they reach the floating island of Aeolia, home of Aeolus, the keeper of the winds, not a god, but a man, a mortal king, beloved by the immortals, who has been given authority over the winds as a gift. He receives Odysseus with full Homeric hospitality, a month of feasting, of stories, of the companionship that the wanderings have made rare. When Odysseus finally asks to leave, Aeolus gives him something extraordinary, a bag made from the hide of a 9-year-old ox, in which he has sealed every wind that could blow them off course. Every wind except the west wind, which he lets loose to carry them home. He ties the bag himself with a silver cord and stows it in the hold of Odysseus' ship. For 9 days and 9 nights Odysseus holds the helm without sleeping. He can see the fires of Ithaca, and then he sleeps. Aeolia is one of the most carefully described places in the Odyssey. A cliff of bronze surrounds the island. The walls are unbreakable. Aeolus lives there with his 6 sons and 6 daughters, who are married to each other, an arrangement that reads as strange to a modern audience, but signals in the Homeric world a kind of self-contained completeness, a household that needs nothing from outside itself. Aeolus is emphatically not a monster, not a temptress, not a supernatural threat. He is a man who has been entrusted with something divine and who exercises it with generosity. His hospitality to Odysseus is genuine. A full month of feasting, genuine interest in the story of Troy. He is, in almost every respect, the opposite of Polyphemus. The gift of the bag is the most generous act any mortal performs in the wanderings. Aeolus has not been asked to do this. He volunteers it. He seals every adverse wind, the north, the south, the east, leaving only the west, which will carry the fleet to Ithaca. He ties the bag himself with a silver cord and stows it beneath the rowing bench out of reach of curious hands. Or so he intends. Homer is precise about what happens next. For 9 days and 9 nights Odysseus steers without sleep, holding the helm himself, not trusting anyone else to hold the course. On the 10th day Ithaca appears. They can see the fires on the shore. Odysseus, exhausted beyond anything his body has previously required of him, allows himself to sleep for the first time in those 9 days. The companions have been watching the bag. They've been discussing it among themselves. It is, they reason, treasure, gold and silver from Aeolus. And here is Odysseus sleeping, and here is the bag, and here is the question. Why should Odysseus alone receive all the gifts from every king they visit, while the companions row and receive nothing? The question is not unreasonable. It is also catastrophic. They open the bag. This is the intellectual heart of the episode. The companions are not villains. They're making a reasonable argument in the wrong situation. The tragedy is structural. The winds pour out of the bag and take the fleet back the way it came. In the time it takes to understand what is happening, 9 days of sailing are undone. When Odysseus wakes to the sound of the wind and sees the horizon, he recognizes where they are, and he considers suicide. He lies down in the ship instead and endures. He returns to Aeolia and asks for help again. Aeolus refuses. This refusal is important. He does not refuse out of malice or divine instruction or even personal antipathy. He refuses because of a considered theological judgment. If the gods have clearly turned against Odysseus, and what else could explain what has just happened, then helping him is not only futile, but potentially impious. The man who was beloved by the immortals is not going to offend them now by helping someone they have decided to oppose. It is the most courteous refusal in the Odyssey, and it is final. The companions, the group decision, the democratic failure, are one of the poem's persistent preoccupations. They appear again at the Cattle of the Sun in Book 12, when they make the one choice that Tiresias specifically warned Odysseus not to allow. Homer is tracking something across the wanderings, the structural impossibility of the collective in extreme circumstances. The companions are not bad men. They're frightened, exhausted, aggrieved. Their complaint about the bag is genuinely reasonable. Why does Odysseus receive all the gifts? Their decision to open it is the decision that reasonable, frightened, exhausted people make when the leader is asleep and they have decided they know better. They did not know what was in the bag. They made an inference and acted on it. Homer's point is not that they were wicked. His point is that this is what groups do, and that the results can be irreversible. The Aeolus episode is the first and clearest statement of the wandering's darkest structural argument, that leadership in extremity is necessarily solitary. The companions cannot be trusted with knowledge that they do not understand, not because they are bad, but because the gap between what they know and what the situation requires is too great. Odysseus has understood this for 9 days, steering alone while the rest of the crew slept. He understood it insufficiently. He slept. There is another reading, and Homer supports it too. Odysseus' failure to trust anyone with the secret of the bag, his refusal to tell his companions what it contained and why they must not touch it, is itself a leadership failure. He treated them as a liability rather than a crew, and they responded accordingly. Both things are true. The companions made the catastrophic decision. Odysseus made it possible. The Odyssey does not resolve the question of whose failure matters more. They can see the fires of Ithaca. This detail is placed by Homer with complete deliberateness. It is not that they are close, it is that they can see home. The fires that burn on the shore of Ithaca are visible from the ship. 20 years of wandering, and the end of it is in sight, and Odysseus falls asleep. The near homecoming is one of the Odyssey's defining structural devices. It appears 3 times in the poem. The bag of winds here in Book 10, the raft from Ogygia that Poseidon destroys in Book 5, and the Phaeacian ship that deposits Odysseus on Ithaca in Book 13, the only one that succeeds, and only because Odysseus is unconscious for it. The pattern suggests something more than plot convenience. Homer is arguing about the nature of homecoming. Nostos, the Greek word for homecoming that the poem is built around, is not simply a geographical event. It is the restoration of the self to its proper context. Odysseus cannot simply arrive at Ithaca. He must arrive as himself, recognized and recognizing. The near homecomings fail because the conditions for genuine return are not yet in place. He is too exhausted, or the crew is unreliable, or the divine opposition is too strong. The bag of winds makes this argument most clearly. Everything external has been arranged. The winds have been controlled, the course set, the favour of the gods secured through Aeolus. Everything internal fails. Odysseus cannot stay awake. His companions cannot refrain from the bag. The most perfect external conditions in the wanderings are defeated by the most ordinary human vulnerabilities, exhaustion and curiosity and grievance. The Aeolus episode is also the moment the wanderings change register. Before it, the disasters have been at least partly external. Monsters, gods, divine hostility. After it, the disasters are increasingly caused by those within the fleet. The Laestrygonians, which follows immediately, is the most catastrophically violent episode in the poem and requires no fault at all from Odysseus or his crew, but it comes after the Bag of Winds, and it comes to a fleet that has just been reduced by the worst collective decision the companions will make until the Cattle of the Sun. The Aeolus episode is the poem's formal announcement that the Wanderings are now a different kind of ordeal. After Aeolus refuses to help a second time, Odysseus and his crew row for 6 days and nights without wind. They row on human strength alone to the land of the Laestrygonians. The Laestrygonians are an episode that most readers of the Odyssey have forgotten by the time they remember it. Though they should not be forgotten. They're the moment the poem changes permanently. Next week, a harbour more beautiful than any they have ever seen, described by Homer with the geographic care he normally reserves for places of significance. Enclosed, deep, ringed with sheer cliffs, with a single narrow entrance. All of Odysseus' ships, except his own, sail into this harbour. They do not come out. I'll see you next Thursday.